So I'm wondering about after the recent shooting that we happened here in Virginia Beach.
We don't even know about that.
We didn't know about it until after we watched it.
Last night, yeah.
Yeah, well, so we had a shooting. 12 people, I think it was total, that were killed. It was a Virginia Beach city employee, and it was actually at his place of work. So so far as I know, he's just a disgruntled employee. But the problem is, so he used guns legally bought. What do you guys think need to be done to change, to improve, or anything at all?
The safety of the public or human being, they need to not sell guns, period. Nobody should have guns, but just the police, security guards, That's it.
Yeah.
They allow everybody to buy guns, so that's the issue.
You think that's an issue?
That's a big issue, yeah. Everybody should have guns.
Laws. Speaking of a mother who lost her son to gun violence, I say stricter laws.
Yeah.
Stricter laws.
It needs to be a stricter laws, and they need to do a little bit more as far as the research. When you're giving out the issue of a gun, you need to modify it, because I understand, it is your right, but I also understand that that bullet doesn't have a name. Anybody can get hurt.
So do you know what it is to have to go buy a gun? Do you know what you have to do? Do you know the process? Have you ever gone to purchase a gun?
Not per se for myself, but reading up after the fact to learn with that is that they say there is supposed to be a waiting period. They're supposed to do an investigation, but that's not done because these kids are getting guns. I'm from Baltimore. We're from Baltimore City, so these kids are getting guns like it's candy.
Right. Well, so I mean, what you're probably thinking about is not the legal way of how, I have gone to go and buy a gun. Mm-hmm. Like how I had to go buy a gun, you go and you fill out paperwork. They go do a background check on you, which can take sometimes an hour, a couple hours, and then they come back and it's okay, you're good, you can buy the gun, or no, you can't buy the gun. But there's no willy-nilly. You can't just go into a store and buy it 5 minutes later. There's a process to it. If you give your wrong name, it comes back and you don't get your gun. Because the process is pretty strict as it is. Mm-hmm. I've bought 3 weapons myself, or 4, and every time you have to do the same process. So there's no willy-nilly, if the willy-nilly is out on the street in the trunk of a car.
Yes.
That's the willy-nilly. So and you have to be 21 in order to buy a handgun in a store. And then in Maryland, I know it's much stricter.
Yes.
So
yeah,
Virginia.
But what's the purpose of somebody buying a gun, even if you're buying illegal? What's your intention? What's your intention?
The illegal or legal?
Legal. What's your intention? Like me, going to buy a gun. What's my intention?
So, you understand the Second Amendment, right? The Second Amendment says shall not be infringed, right? And so, what's the purpose? Do you think? What do you think why you think the founding fathers said no, shall not be infringed? You don't know. I don't know. So the whole reasoning was to prevent tyranny, to prevent tyrannical government from coming over and dictating to the public, to the citizens. This is what's going to happen. This is how we're going to do things and whatnot. And then the citizens who are unarmed have no way of fighting back and resisting that. On top of criminals and whoever would try and take something that's not theirs from another citizen.
Well, that's why we got protection with government.
See,
policeman.
okay.
You call the policeman and say, look, somebody's trying to rob me, somebody's trying to do this and that.
So about that, first of all, there's 2 points to that. Mm-hmm. One, how long does it take a police officer to get to where you are, normally speaking, on average?
Especially in Baltimore, it will take a little while.
Exactly. Okay, so there you go. That's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is, where is it written that police or government have a duty to protect you?
They're supposed to. That's their job, no?
Where is it written, though? Where does it say that?
It doesn't.
Yeah.
In fact, there's been 2 recent Supreme Court cases. One most recent, 2005 or 2008. It was a woman named Gonzalez from Colorado who had a domestic issue. She called and told police. Police couldn't do anything about it. Her sons were killed. Her children were killed. Supreme Court case decided that police do not have any duty to protect individual citizens. They have a duty to catch the criminals. But it's not a matter of, they try and stop criminals from committing crime, but they have the duty to catch the criminal after the crime has been committed and not beforehand, because we're not. This is not Minority Report. This is not. We can't see into the future and see that you're going to do something. And even if we did, there's a whole another debate on that as well. But so knowing this now, granted, you're just hearing this from me, but I want you to go out and search your own things, find your own research. What would you say? Is there still room? Is there still a place or a duty for the government to come in and say, hey, we're gonna stop you from buying a gun to protect yourself? We're supposed to protect you, but then we're gonna take 30 minutes, an hour to get to you, and then what?
Well, that's what the issue here is that why too many people getting killed and hurt, because too many people getting gone. Anybody getting
too many people carrying guns, or how about what if I told you there's not enough? Have you ever heard the saying, an armed society is a polite society? No, you haven't heard that? That's a saying, because like the saying goes, I have a gun, you have a gun. We're gonna be polite to each other, are we not? I mean, I'm being polite to you right now, but it would be an extra reason to be, oh, well, you have a gun, so I'm not gonna pull a gun on you, because then you have a gun, you shoot me back.
I guess, I don't know,
because here comes the problem. Do you think people are naturally good or are naturally bad?
I mean, we are good to a certain point, We are good to a certain point,
But good nature, good behavior has to be taught, right?
You have to teach it.
You have to raise good behavior.
You have to raise it right, yeah.
A child left to his own devices is not going to become good.
Well, it depends who on racing or who dealing with in the street,
Right.
Because they learn a lot of stuff on the street.
Right.
Because most of this kid this day, they're not learning from home. They're learning it from the street.
Right.
Who they dealing with.
So then they learn that bad behavior, and they're going to repeat that bad behavior, and then what do you end up with?
Yeah.
More bad behavior.
Yeah.
So with that, why should I have my rights taken away because of that bad behavior that was raised by the streets? If that bad behavior comes to my house, I need to be able to protect myself and my family.
Yeah, but I guess, but at the same time, we'll haunt you. Killing somebody, you know what I mean? You want to go and kill somebody, you can grab him, you can...
What would you rather have?
I was shooting, but I don't was shooting to kill him, because most of the people, they're usually doing it to kill somebody. I was shooting. It's a way to protect yourself. Somebody come to my house, I was shooting. I will get him.
Right.
But I don't get him to kill him. I know what kind of shooting. I can shoot in the hand, I can shoot in the leg.
Well,
You
shouldn't be aiming for the leg, because the leg is a lot harder when you're in the heat of the battle.
Believe me, when you feel that bullet in the leg or in the hand.
But the point is you're in the heat of a battle. You're in the heat of a possible firefight, a gunfight. You're not going to be hitting the leg. You're going to be shooting for the biggest part of the body, which is this center mass.
What the gun? If you're carrying a gun or in a knife, I don't want to shoot in the hand. So when I shoot in the hand, I know I want to drag that gun or that hand or that knife.
You think you could be able to hit a hand in the gunfight?
If
your heart is...
No, remember, if I get a gun, I want to go and train myself. That way I got training range.
Right.
To learn how to shoot it right. That's why a lot of people getting hurt these days. They got the gun, but then you're shooting to be shooting.
You understand that the amount of hours in training that police officers go through and special forces they go through, and yet they are still coming out and saying there's no hitting a foot, hand, leg, or arm in a gunfight. What do they shoot? They shoot for the biggest part of the body available. It's the center mass. Because now the thought process though is still you shoot to stop. You don't shoot to kill. You shoot to stop. But in order to stop, you need to hit the biggest. Well, okay. What do you mean they're not doing it anymore?
Then you're shooting just to.
Have you ever been in a gunfight?
Take the person off. Me?
Yeah.
You're not going no, because I never believe in gun. I know how to fight. I know how to karate, boxing.
Right.
I'm old fashioned.
So a gunfight is completely different.
Yeah, but I can believe me. I been somebody point a gun at me before, and I take that gun away from him.
Trust me when I say a gunfight is completely different.
Believe me, he will point a gun away from me, and I take that gun from him. And I beat the crap on him.
I think you're being very confident, but you might be a little overconfident.
Trust me, I did it before.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, sir.
You're welcome. Take care. You be safe aside.
You as well. Thank you.
Are you a police officer?
We had a recent shooting in Virginia Beach with at the city town hall. 12 people were shot and killed by a city employee, disgruntled city employee. He bought the guns legally. what do you think should or shouldn't be done to do after this incident?
Well, I mean, the guns were bought legally.
Right.
Okay. Obviously, there's something wrong with this guy.
Right.
You know, lock him up, throw away the key.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was shot and killed.
Oh, well, good.
So, but I'm right there with you as well, because there's nothing you need to do.
There's enough gun. If you want to know about how I feel about gun laws, there's enough gun laws.
Right.
You know as well as I do. If they take away our guns, only the bad guys are going to have guns.
Right.
So.
Right. No more advanced background checks or universal background
Well,
checks.
I think there should be background checks.
Right. Well, I mean, those are already in place.
True.
Right.
I think it should be, cover the whole United States.
Right.
Other than that, I don't know what else you can do.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, the gun control people say universal background checks to force someone like you, who you have a gun, you want to sell me your gun, they want to force you to have to go to a FFL dealer and make me go through a background check before I can buy the gun that you have you're going to sell me. But see, you know what that requires, right? That will require a gun registration.
oh, correct, okay.
Because if you have a gun, they want to know when you have a gun, you're going to sell it to me. They want to know about it. They want to know that you originally had the gun, and if I somehow end up with that gun, well, gee, how did I get that gun? Oh, okay, it was purchased.
Yeah, well,
So
it is
what?
complicated. I mean,
And then what happens? What happens after a gun registration normally in history? As we look to the past, what happens after a gun registration?
Well, I know my family, I don't know what you're getting at here, but my family, my dad had a lot of guns. And over the years, the guns, were filtered down to me and my brothers.
Right.
With no checks.
No background check. Right. Right. So do you think that because that was part of a proposed law that they said that needs to be changed?
Well, all I know is this. Look, I know there's people without a record or with any kind of problems in the past that buy them, then they sell them to the criminals.
Right.
So I mean, I don't know how you solve this problem. I don't know.
Well, I would say we need to improve the respect of guns and the whole nature of having a firearm and carrying that firearm to protect yourself, because it's not the duty and the job of the government or police officers to do it. The Supreme Court has already said so. It's not the duty or job of police officers to protect you. It's their job to catch the criminal.
Well, they're there to serve and protect. And then, my dad was a police officer for a while and then became a fireman. My oldest son was a police officer for 10 years. And it says right on the vehicle, to serve and protect. And I believe that.
Well,
But,
it's a nice saying, but legally there's no binding.
Well, okay, legally, you're right.
There's no binding thing that says they have to. Because
Right.
I mean, if something happens, something happened here right now. You call police. How long are they going to take to get here?
Probably a little while.
Yeah, at least a couple minutes.
Yeah.
And how long
I
does it
get
take?
what you're
How
saying.
long does it take to defend yourself?
Yeah,
In order to defend
immediately.
yourself from the moment of an attack, you need it could take a couple seconds, and you've got that 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and or you're done.
True.
So,
True.
well, I appreciate it. Thanks, sir.
All right.
Have a good day.
You too.
We recently had the Virginia Beach shooting.
Right.
12 people were killed.
Municipal building.
Right. What do you think should happen? Anything? Because of it?
Oh, what do you think they should do?
I don't think that anything should be done. If
Neither
anything,
do I. I don't think anything should be done.
Well, I mean, because Governor Northam has proposed additional gun control measures.
Yeah, I heard that. I saw that silencer suppression. How's that going to stop anything?
Well, it was more than that. It was talking about I think a longer waiting period. I mean, it was a bunch. It was a bunch of stuff that I can't see going through the Virginia Congress, Virginia legislature. But he's going to try.
Yeah, you can't stop it. You
Yeah.
can't stop incidents like this. It's mental health. It's not guns.
Right.
If people just realize that and do more about mental health, fine.
Right.
What
do you say about the saying that an armed society is a polite society?
maybe if somebody was armed in that municipal building, he could have shot the. I
Right.
hate to say that, but
Well,
it's true.
if you're gonna go to the place of killing innocent people,
Right.
You've gone to the monster zone. You've gone
Right.
to the
You've gone past the point of
no return, essentially.
exactly.
Right. So I mean,
So yeah, if someone had a gun in there, they could have shot him and saved maybe 11 lives.
Right. Right. So, all right. Well, I
Yep,
appreciate it. So
I agree.
Thank you.
I agree, buddy.
It's already happened. It's popular. So here in Virginia Beach, we just recently had a couple weeks ago the shooting. 12 people were killed with a guy, the city employee, and he had 2 legally purchased firearms, apparently with suppressors or silencers. You think anything should be done after this because of it? The governor.
To him or to the
Well,
gun law?
he was shot and killed. He was shot and killed, but the governor Northam has proposed additional gun control measures, like very, very
No, that's
invasive, very invasive, very right.
No, I don't agree with any of the gun laws that they're trying to pass.
Any reason behind it? What is your reasoning behind it?
Second Amendment.
Yeah. Okay. So would you agree with the saying an armed society is a polite society?
Yes. Legally purchased firearms.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Right. Because what if somebody, another employee in there had another firearm legally purchased, he could have done something about it, right?
Yep.
You think that should be promoted to say that maybe?
No, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna say that you have to carry.
No. There's not any kind of force mandatory, but to say to allow it, to say, hey, you have a concealed weapon permit.
I don't have a problem with them carrying.
Right.
I have a concealed weapon permit, and I would. It goes most places with me.
Right.
The
Well,
gun
I
does.
agree. Thank you for that, because
I
you.
thought you was reaching out to shake my
Well,
hand.
no, you're right. Well, I was just pointing at you, but I agree. I agree very much. So, nothing else you want to say? Nothing else? No other 2 cents you want to put in?
Nah.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Recently had the Virginia Beach shooting
Okay.
a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
There was
yeah,
12
yeah.
people.
Horrible.
Right. 12 people were killed.
Yes.
This city employee purchased 2 legally purchased guns. Apparently with suppressors or silencers, but I don't think that means anything. What do you think should or should not be done, or regarding Governor Northam has proposed additional gun control measures to try and pass through the Virginia legislature? Very, very invasive. I mean, they go very. If you take the traditional "shall not be infringed" statement of the Second Amendment, his proposals definitely go beyond that.
Well, I believe that everybody has a right to bear arms, but I think that there should be more checks and balances of doing background checks on people
Before purchase.
because it's not the gun that kills the people, it's the person. And so I don't want to have my rights taken away, but I do think that they got to come up with a better way of making sure people that shouldn't have guns don't.
So do you know the process of what it takes to go and purchase a gun? Have you
Well,
purchased a
In
gun?
Virginia,
It
it's
depends.
different from we're in Delaware. We have different rules.
Right. Okay, so I mean, I'm pretty sure. I mean, it's basically the same, right? If you're just going to go purchase, I'm not talking about concealed weapon permit. You're just going to go purchase. It's somewhat the same as far as you just can't go willy nilly walk into a store and walk out with a gun 30 minutes to an hour later. It usually takes more than that. Every state,
Right.
for the most part. So in Virginia, I've done it 4 times now. You go and you fill out forms. You have to wait. They go back. They do a background check, and sometimes it can take longer depending on what your history is or isn't. Delaware, it obviously means something different to go with conceal, but I don't know if I don't know if Delaware has a waiting period, like a 24-hour, 48-hour waiting
yeah,
period.
they
Those
do.
states, they do. Okay, I was going to say those states are fewer and far between, but he purchased his 2 firearms legally. So he went through a background check.
Okay.
So beyond a background check, I mean, who's to, if you want to go down the route of mental capacity, mental illness or not, we have that system in place to say that if you were put into a system, if you were put into either
the mental
involuntary
health,
or
yeah.
voluntary admitted to a mental health facility, that's supposed to be a check. And so that's not a people problem.
Right.
That's a government problem. They're not combining those two systems to say if you're trying to buy a weapon, if you have that mental problem, that you can't buy that. So that's supposed to
legally,
be
but they can always do the illegal. I mean, that's the thing. Anybody who wants
Right.
is going to get it. I don't think you could stop that. I think what we need to do is put more systems in place in the buildings themselves.
security.
I think that has to be mandated state. You know, the legislators need to step up and worry about that instead of worrying about the individuals, you know, the stand your ground. We should be able to stand our ground. Somebody comes in my house, trust me,
Right.
I will be standing my ground
Right.
all the way. But I think in a public place, they need to have more security throughout every state building, every federal government building. And you're not going to be able to stop the criminal. The criminal's going to do whatever.
Right.
So you're not going to be able to stop every criminal, but maybe at least, and stricter, like if you do get in trouble, there's got to be stricter rules, stricter penalties.
What do you think about the saying that an armed society is a polite society?
And say that again?
An armed society is a polite society.
I've never heard that. Have you?
No, I've never heard
Heard that.
I can't remember the guy who says it, but I've used that quote a lot of times in my in writing for school. But the saying goes that essentially, you can legally own a firearm, you can legally own a firearm, I can legally own a firearm. Good behavior is not natural. Some people would say good behavior, good people are just natural. Most everybody's good.
Most
and
everybody
I would
is.
say no, it's not natural. It has to be taught. It has to be raised. It has to be.
I also think the kids these days, like, nobody plays
structure.
things out with, like, their fists anymore, you know?
Yeah.
They're too quick to, like, shoot somebody or knife somebody or whatever. I think, like, as a society, we need to, like, find a way to reprogram people not to do that. But I also think that you don't need to have, you know, 22 automatic rifles and however many magazines. Like, what does one person need to possess that much for?
Beyond the Second Amendment, it's your right.
You're right.
It's your right, yes, but,
So what difference does it make if I have one firearm or if I have 20 firearms?
well, some could say that becomes an obsession with some people.
Okay, people have an obsession with food. People have an obsession with a lot of different
It's
things.
like cars, an automobile. Driving is a privilege, okay?
Right.
A car is not dangerous until you put the wrong person behind it. A person
Right.
who's been drinking, a person who doesn't know what they're doing.
Or doesn't
then it
care.
becomes a weapon.
Right.
A car is not a weapon until you put the wrong person in it under the wrong circumstances.
Right.
You know, and you know, if you just my problem, I think it goes way back to when the government stepped in and tried to teach, you know, control parents how to parent. Let me tell you, my boys, I've got a 33 and a 28-year-old, and they know the rules.
Right.
They know, they made good decisions in those. And that's because I was allowed to take them. I was just allowed. I could take them in the bathroom and spank them if I wanted to. And trust me, they got that.
Right.
And they grew up with respect. These kids, I'm sorry, these kids nowadays, their parents can't do anything, nor can the teachers, nor, you know, we need to bring back the 70s when they could get paddled in school, and then maybe they would learn to make better choices. And I think that's the problem. We're in this age of the millennials and older who they don't have good choices.
Well, and then there's also the problem with, I think, that guns are glorified.
They are.
In movies and shows
and
where
we,
it's
And all these
that's
games that these kids, like,
Yeah.
they're desensitized that, like, you're
to
not
killing, to the blood.
in that game. You're shooting somebody dead, but, like, you can't do that in the real world. But they just think that killing is just, like, no big deal.
So I played a lot of games as a kid doing that kind of stuff.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I also went to the Marine Corps boot camp, was taught properly how to handle a firearm, and have carried a firearm as a job in my multiple different jobs.
Right.
So I could see growing up, if multiple kids could grow up with the proper training of a firearm as well as playing those games, and they would come out knowing the difference.
Right.
Knowing the difference between the two.
Absolutely.
Right.
So I think there needs to be more of a bringing up from the bottom, from the beginnings of,
Yeah,
hey,
I
this is
agree.
a firearm,
More
this is a
education.
tool,
It's
and
not
this
a
is
toy.
it can right, exactly, and it's not a toy, and it can seriously hurt someone, as opposed to waiting until they're in their 20s. Oh,
right.
this is a gun, this can hurt somebody, don't do anything with it, because
Right.
Any person that has a gun in their house needs to teach their kids the seriousness of it, and then
Respect.
when they get old enough to where they can handle it and shoot it. Like that's how I was raised in Texas. Like my dad had guns, but I knew exactly what those guns would do. And I remember he had a 44 Magnum, and he put a pillow in front of me, and we'd go out and target practice. And I understood that when I pulled that trigger, how powerful it was.
Right.
And again, yeah. But you know, there's some people that are totally against guns. Period.
But you would say that would probably be the smarter route as opposed to waiting for government to come in and see a problem with gun violence and say, oh, well, we need to take your rights away because...
Oh yeah.
They already.
So Virginia Beach, we just recently had a shooting, mass shooting. 12 people were shot and killed at a Virginia Beach city building by a city employee. He illegally purchased the firearms. Supposedly he had suppressors or silencers. Now the governor is proposing more gun control measures. Very invasive gun control measures, but what do you think? What do you think of his gun control measures? What do you think of the incident? What do you think altogether?
It's sad, but I think that we've all become numb to mass shootings at this point.
Right.
But I think that if guns are readily available, I see no reason why it can't be controlled, or there at least limit the amount that you can buy, the type of guns that you can purchase. I don't believe that assault weapons should be for the everyday citizen. They are basically, they're not for hunting. Anything that you shoot will definitely tear it to pieces. So there's no reason for my neighbor to have an assault weapon. Do I think that background checks will curb some of it? Absolutely not, because most of those people were just normal people. You know, we can talk about mental illness until we're blue in the face, but you really don't know a person and what ticks them. You know, we all don't know anyone in that manner. You know what I mean?
Right. Well,
even the people that you work with. But I do believe that definitely there should be some type of kind of like a Walgreens system where the system is universal. You know what I mean? Like you buy your prescriptions, you know who's you can get it in different states. We should be able to know who owns what. Just like we do our, what do you call them? The people that, what am I saying? The people that, you know, like they rape people. What do you call these people?
Sex offenders. Yes.
We know who they are. Why don't we know who owns what in our neighborhood?
Okay. Well, so all right, you take vehicles. You register your vehicle, and if you don't have registration for your vehicle, you'll get ticketed by police.
Right.
But what is driving? Driving is a privilege, right?
Right. So is owning a gun.
No, it's not.
You don't think it's a privilege?
Second Amendment shall not be infringed. What do you think that means? What does that sound like it means to you?
That basically you can't stop it.
Right. So where is the government? Why is the government coming in and saying we're infringing? We're going to take away your rights. We're going to restrict your rights.
Okay.
When it
here's
was
the deal.
expressly written in the Federalist Papers, in the Federalist Papers that the Founding Fathers wrote to go along with the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, they explicitly state the right of the right of the individual to own firearms is not for hunting. It's not for criminals, although it is used for.
Wasn't that law made during a time where they were talking about wars?
When is there not a time with wars?
Well, no. I meant that law was made years ago when we were talking about the right to bear arms. It was more about military. It wasn't about the everyday citizen. I think we reworded it.
I would suggest you go back and read the Bill of Rights, the Constitution,
Really?
and the Federalist Papers. It
And
is
may
not
I-
because what is the militia? Because that's part of the Second Amendment. What is the militia?
That's our army. That's our armed services,
No, the militia is of the people. Is made up of the people.
which is still your
You
armed
have-
services.
Well, no. Well, okay, yes, the military is made up of the people, but the militia is the unregulated. You have the military, which is the regulated forms of people, the services, and then you have the militia, which is just your everyday person who's at home, works a job, and when needed is called upon to defend their country.
Well,
May
this
I
bill
ask
needs to be
what-
updated then? I mean, and we're still going by a bill that was back in what, early
1776.
1900s, so we need to.
Well,
this-
So
your
what's-
Constitution
what-
is made to be revised. What may I ask you what your views are?
I'm a constitutionalist. I'm a libertarian constitutionalist.
Which
Where
means what are your views on
the,
gun control?
I want to go back to the Constitution. The Constitution says shall not be infringed. It shouldn't be infringed because here we have a place where government is made up of the people. Supposedly we have raised government up to this high level of they're so smart.